Okay, today now we'll discuss one more important topic, that is the rectum and the anal canal. So in the last class we discussed about the small intestine, duodenum, jejunum and ileum, then the large intestine, that is the ascending colon, cecum, transverse colon, descending colon, as well as the sigmoid colon, as well as part of the rectum also. So some more we'll discuss here, and then the mainly about the anal canal. So the rectum is a 13 centimeter long tube. Okay, this is how it looks like. Okay, it begins from the S3 where the sigmoid colon ends. There is the sigmoid colon. Then at S3 level, it will continue as the rectum. So this is called as the recto-sigmoid junction. Okay, so begins from S3, continuation of the sigmoid colon, the sacrum and the coccyx. As we saw in the previous lecture, at the end we saw the curvature. So similarly, it will end as a curve in the sacrum and the coccyx. See here, you can see here. So this is the curvature of the sacrum as well as the coccyx. So even the rectum will be curved like this. Ends at the tip of the coccyx and it continues as the anal canal. All you know. Okay. Lower dilated part is called as the rectal ampulla. If you see here, before it continues as the anal canal, this is the recto-anorectal junction or recto-anal junction. So this is the junction, and below this is the anal canal. Above that, before it ends, this rectum canal ends, it forms a dilated part that is called as rectal ampulla. Rectal ampulla. So always this is filled with the feces before it is evacuated outside. Coming to the coverings of the peritoneum, if you see the peritoneal covering of the rectum, so in the it is divided into upper one third, middle one third, and the lower one third. In the upper one third, the rectum is totally covered anteriorly and laterally, even though it is rectoperitoneal, means behind the peritoneum. As you can see this blue colored structure, that is the peritoneum. So even though it is behind, it is rectoperitoneal. Anteriorly as well laterally, it is covered by peritoneum, but it has no mesentery. So that's why it is called as rectoperitoneal. So anteriorly and laterally, it is covered by peritoneum. But if you see the middle one third, only it is covering the anterior one third. This is the middle one third of the rectum. This is the first upper one third, middle one third, the middle one third. Only anterior it is covering. No, on the lateral side it is absent. Then in the lower one third, it is totally devoid of the peritoneum. Devoid of means no peritoneum at all, because this peritoneum will then go and cover the in case of female it will cover the uterus, and in case of male it will cover the bladder. Okay, so the lower one third is devoid, means absence of peritoneum. Coming to the musculature, so if you see here the outer longitudinal and the inner circular muscle fibers, you can see here this is studying much more better in case of the histology. So here you can see this is the outer longitudinal and the inner circular smooth muscle fiber. Inner circular, these are the inner circular, outer longitudinal fibers. There are no tinea coli. These are not tinea, but a part I has been to show the inner circular. They have cut it like tinea, but it is not tinea. So tinea means all the muscle fibers, these muscle fibers will become into a narrow strip. So tinea are absent, as you know, in case of the rectum and the anal canal, the tinea are absent. So there are no tinea coli, no typical features of the the intestine, large intestine. Coming to the mucous membrane inside, if you see the mucous membrane together with circular muscle fibers form three semicircular permanent folds called as the transverse rectal folds. If you see here, so the wall becomes so thick, it makes folds inside. These are called as transverse rectal folds. Okay, so there are two on the left side, one on the right side. If you can see only one on the right side and two on the left side. So these are the three transverse folds which you can see from inside in the mucous membrane. Coming to the relations, we have already seen some of the relations of the rectum. Posteriorly, the sacrum and the coccyx, it is same for both the male and female. So this is the sacrum and below is the coccyx. and below that we will have the pyriform fossa coccygeal muscle as well as the levator ani muscles. Okay, so if you can see here, this is the levator ani muscle which is shown here. Okay, then we have the coccygeal muscle pyriform, so everything will be below. Okay, which will be the forming the posterior relations. And then also there are two plexuses, sacral plexus as a sympathetic plexus, which is present behind this rectum. Anteriorly, we have seen the relations. There are slight changes in male and female. In case of the male, we have the anterior two-thirds will be the above. We have the sigmoid colon. Here there is sigmoid colon, which is sitting here, and the coils of the small intestine, and that is the ileum, will occupy the upper two-thirds. In the rectovesical pouch, the pouch is called as the rectovesical pouch. So this pouch here, this is called as the rectovesical pouch, within which will be the rectovesical means the rectum, between the rectum and the vesica means bladder in case of male. But in case of female, there is between this there will be uterus, so it will be called as the rectouterine pouch. Okay. So here in case of male, it is the rectovesical pouch, and there will be sigmoid colon as well as the ileum, everything. Okay. In the lower one third, as we know, the lower one third, the urinary bladder is separated from the urinary bladder, as well as it is separated from the vas deferens, seminal vesicles, as well as the prostate here. So prostate will be below. Okay, but in case of female, as we know, we have the uterus, as we can see in the previous picture. Female, so we have, so this is the, in the upper two thirds we have pouch here. This is called as the rectouterine, as I said. So between the rectum and the uterus, so it is called as the rectouterine. In case of male, it will be rectovesical. In case of female, it will be called as the rectouterine pouch, or clinically called as pouch of Douglas. Very important pouch, because in case of the carcinoma of the ovaries and other things, the most dependent part and fluid collection will be here. That's what it's called as the pouch of Douglas. As well as you can see here, this is the sigmoid colon, as well as the coils of the ileum. Everything will be there in the upper two thirds. In the lower one third, as you can see here, this is the posterior wall of the vagina, which is separated from the bladder and the rectum. Both are separating it by the wall of the vagina, especially the posterior wall of vagina will be in relation to the anterior wall of the rectum. Okay. So these are the differences. Now coming to the blood supply. Blood supply, it is supplied by three important arteries. Okay, superior, middle, as well as the inferior rectal artery. Superior rectal artery, it is a continuation of the inferior mesenteric artery, middle rectal artery from the internal iliac artery, and the inferior rectal artery from the internal pudendal artery. All these are the three arteries which are supplying the rectum. Rectum is supplied by rectal artery, superior, middle, as well as inferior rectal artery. And the venous drainage is into the portal circulation, or the port vein, through the superior rectal vein, draining into the inferior mesenteric vein, and from there into the portal vein. The middle and the inferior rectal vein will be draining into separate veins called as the internal iliac veins, as well as the internal pudendal vein. And this is very important because it leads to something called as the portocaval anastomosis, because this is draining, the superior rectal vein is draining into the portal vein, that is portal circulation, and the middle and inferior rectal vein are draining into the internal iliac and the internal pudendal vein, that is called a systemic circulation. So there is, this side will become the junction between the portal and systemic circulation. So that is called as the portocaval anastomosis, or the portal systemic anastomosis. Okay, this junction between the portal vein as well as the systemic vein, portal vein and the systemic vein, which leads to a condition called as the portocaval anastomosis. So here you can see here the superior rectal artery, and this is middle rectal artery, and this is inferior rectal artery. Okay, so this on one side they have shown the arteries, and here on the left side they have shown the veins. So, but it is present on both the sides. But for simplification, they have shown one side arteries and one side veins. Okay. So here you can see there is a superior rectal vein, middle rectal vein, and inferior rectal vein. So this is the junction between the superior rectal vein. As I said, it will drain into the portocaval the portal vein, and the rectal middle as well as the inferior rectal vein are part of the systemic circulation. So this is the junction between the portal vein and the systemic vein. So this is called as the portocaval anastomosis. And if there is any back pressure from the portal vein, it leads to called as the internal hemorrhoids as well as the external hemorrhoids. Okay, so you can see here. So these are the veins which are dilated because of the back pressure. So these are the sites where there will be back pressure. One is the esophagus, it is the second, and the other sites where there is portosystemic anastomosis. Now coming to the anal canal. So this is the lower part with kind of the rectum continues as the anal canal. So it is a short part but very important part because they are very important features. It is just 4 centimeters long, passes downwards and backwards. As you can see here direction. So it is directed downwards and backwards from the rectal ampulla. So this is the rectal ampulla from there. At the level of sling formed by the puborectalis, there is a sling running from the pubic bone up to the rectum. So this is called a puborectalis. So this will form a sling and it will pull forwards, and anal canal will be opening backwards. Okay, to the anus. So this is the very important site where there is puborectalis muscle, and this acts as a sphincter. Okay, the remains contracted and forms an ano-posterior sling except during defecation. So this sling, that is the puborectalis muscle, will form a sling around the rectum, and it will always keep the anal canal closed except during defecation. Okay, because of this pulling, always the anal canal will be closed. But damage to this ring can lead to the abnormalities. The walls are kept in opposition by the levator ani muscle as well as the anal sphincter. There are also muscles here called as the levator ani muscle, which I showed you previously in the previous picture. Here was okay. So here is the levator ani muscle. This is the levator ani muscle, and then we'll have the puborectalis here. Okay, levator ani muscle as well as the anal sphincters will keep always the wall closed. Coming to the some important relations of the anal canal, again this differs in case of the male and female. Anteriorly, we have very important structure which is called as the perineal body in the front. Okay, this is a very important structure, especially in case of females, because during the delivery, this perineal body can tear up, and that leads to prolapse of the uterus, prolapse of the rectum, and the anal canal. Okay, so if this body is damaged, this is the perineal body. See, this is more important in female than the male. Okay, so anterior relation for the anal canal will be the perineal body. Then we have the urogenital diaphragm. Here there will be a diaphragm called as urogenital diaphragm. Then the membranous urethra. The membranous urethra. So in the front we have this urethra is called as the membranous urethra. So between the prostatic urethra and the penile urethra there is short part which is called the membranous urethra. And the bulb of penis in case of the male. So this is the bulb of the penis in case of male, and the lower part of the vagina in case of the female. In case of female, there will be lower part of the vagina, which is anterior relation. Posterior relation is same for both. So that is the anococcygeal body behind. You can see here the anococcygeal body, and the laterally we have the ischiorectal fossa. There are fossas on the right side and left side. These are called the ischiorectal fossa. These are some of the important relations. Now coming to some development of the rectal and the anal canal. Why this is important? Because depending on this development, all the blood supply, venous drainage, lymphatics, nerve supply, everything differs here. Okay, so that's why some development of the anal canal is important. Embryologically, the anal canal is developed from two sources. The upper half is derived from the hindgut. So the upper half is derived from the hindgut, just like that of the other parts of the intestines. Okay, and the lower half is developed from the proctodium. Lower half is developed from the proctodium. This part. Okay, proctodium, that is the ectoderm. Okay. So hence there are differences. The junction of the two parts is line indicated by a line called as the pectineal line. This is the line where the junction between the hindgut and the pectodeum. That is the two developmental parts of the anal canal has developed. Okay, the upper part from the hindgut and lower part from the pectodeum. So the junction between these two is called as the pectineal line. Okay. The part of the canal superior to the pectineal line differs from the part to the pectineal line. How? In different ways. So the part above the pectineal line differs from the part which is below in different ways. One is the lining epithelia, arterial supply, venous drainage, innervation, lymphatics. So this line is very important because this indicates above there is the epithelial lining is different from below. Arterial supply is above and below is different. Lymphatic drainage, venous drainage, innervation, everything is different. So that's why this line is very important, called as the pectineal line. So what is pectineal line? It is junction between the hindgut and the proctodium. Below that, there is one more line called as white line. Below the pectineal line, indicate the site of mucocutaneous junction. Means it becomes from here the junction between the inside we have lined by the mucous membrane, but from this line there it becomes cutaneous. It becomes skin. The lowermost part of the anal canal will be lined by skin. So this junction between the mucus and the skin is called as the white line. So you should be able to differentiate between the pectineal line and white line. So the most important will be the pectineal line because it will be developmentally different above and below. So how it differs? What are the differences? One is the mucous lining epithelium. The upper half, that is lined by the tall columnar epithelium, thrown into vertical folds, as we have seen the anal columns. So there will be columns here. So this is the whole anal canal. So the upper part is lined, be thrown into folds by something called as the anal columns. Anal columns, you can see here. So it is mentioned as anal columns in between, which are joined together at the lower end by the semilunar folds called as anal valves. So at the lower end, these anal columns are joined together to form the anal valves. Okay. Semilunar folds are remnant of the anal membrane. So initially there is the anal membrane which has ruptured and now it formed the anal valves. So anal columns are the vertical line and the junction between them, these are called as the anal folds or the anal valves. And the lower half, it is because it is skin now below, so it is lined by the stratified squamous epithelium and there are no columns. As you can see here, there are no columns like the upper part, and this is lined by the stratified squamous epithelium, as you saw, because there is mucocutaneous junction here. White line is here, and here below that will be the skin. Coming to the muscles, the two distinct layer, outer longitudinal and inner circular layer of smooth muscle fibers. So there are two types of fibers here. So there are inner circular and the outer longitudinal fibers. These are also very important because they act as the sphincters. Okay, inner circular and outer longitudinal. The thickening of the smooth muscles of the circular layer at the upper end of the anal canal form the involuntary internal sphincter. So this circular muscle fibers, they form a sphincter called as the internal sphincter here, internal sphincter of the anal canal. This is involuntary because it is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So this is from this circular smooth muscle of the rectum in the anal canal. The internal sphincter is enclosed by the sheath of the skeletal muscle that form the voluntary external sphincter. Outside that, there is the skeletal muscles which form the external sphincter. Okay, external. This whole three parts, these are all the external sphincters. So the external sphincter, it is voluntary but as we saw, the internal sphincter is involuntary. So the external sphincter is controlled under our control. The internal sphincter is not under our control. So this is voluntary. So it is made up of skeletal muscle, and it is divided into three parts. If you see here, in the previous picture also you can see, as I said, it is divided into three parts. It is divided into deep. This is the superficial and subcutaneous. Subcutaneous, superficial, deep. Okay, so it is divided into three parts. Okay, subcutaneous part. So here most lower part near the anal canal. This is the subcutaneous part. Then we have the superficial part and the deep part. The subcutaneous part encircles the lower end of the anal canal, has no bony attachment, no bony attachment, just it is around the anal canal. The superficial part is the superficial part attached to the perineal body anteriorly. So anteriorly it is attached to the perineal body, and the coccyx and the anococcygeal body posteriorly. So posteriorly it is attached to the anococcygeal body. Then we have the deep part here. So deep part again encircles the upper end of the anal canal and has no bony attachment. So both the cutaneous part and the deep part have no bony attachment, but the superficial part of this extra sphincter has bony attachments. Okay. Now coming to the junction between the anum and the rectum, that is called as the anorectal ring. Okay, so there is a sphincter we saw there. So that is the anorectal ring, a distinct muscular ring formed at the junction of the rectum and the anal canal, formed by the internal sphincter. So this is the internal anal sphincter. So it is also contributing. Then the deep part of the internal sphincter. Then we have deep part of the internal sphincter, the external sphincter. Sorry. So the deep part of the external sphincter, the internal anal sphincter, that is made up of smooth muscle, and the deep part of the external sphincter, that is made up of the skeletal muscle. Then the puborectalis muscle. There is a muscle called as the puborectalis. Okay. Okay. Then we can be also we saw already that ring which was present here. Here it is shown here. Okay, puborectalis. So it forms a sling around this junction. So the internal anal sphincter, the deep part of the external sphincter, then the puborectalis, all three together form a very important ring called as the anorectal ring. And this can be felt when the rectal PR examination are done, per rectal examination are done, and if you pass the finger, then you can feel the ring. So it can be felt at the rectal examination, and this helps in increasing the anorectal angle. As you can see, the puborectalis is pulling from anteriorly, and it forms a ring around, and it will pull it anteriorly so that there is increase in the angulation and it is kept closed. Okay. Coming to the blood supply. So as I said, everything differs above and below this pectinate line. Okay. So the arteries in the upper half above the line will be supplied by the superior rectal artery, which is the continuation of the inferior mesenteric artery, because it is developed from the hindgut. So this is the artery of the hindgut. The lower part, it is developed from the pectoderm, so it is supplied by the inferior rectal artery. Okay. So above is by superior rectal artery, and below the inferior rectal. There is also middle rectal artery, but for the developmental point of view, there is these two arteries which are supplying. Okay. Coming to the venous drainage, the upper half by the superior rectal vein. So this is the superior rectal vein draining into the inferior mesenteric vein, which is again part of the hindgut. And the lower part is drained into the inferior rectal vein, drained into the internal pudendal vein. So here is the superior rectal vein, and below we have the inferior rectal vein. Okay. So the arterial supply differs, superior and inferior rectal arteries, and above and below. And similarly, the veins also drainage is different, superior and inferior rectal veins. Okay. So this site where there is junction between the superior rectal vein and inferior rectal vein, this is draining into the portal circulation, this is draining into the systemic circulation. So this site is a very important site for the portosystemic anastomosis. Now even the nerve supply differs above and below. Above, it is mucus lined, as you know, it is lined by mucous membrane, and the upper half is sensitive only to stretch and supplied by the inferior hypogastric plexus. So here it is the stretch reflex are present. So whenever there is feces, then you feel like defecating because of the stretch receptors. But in the lower half, it is sensitive to pain, temperature, touch, pressure because it is skin. So it acts just like that the skin, pain, temperature, pressure, everything. But in the upper half, it is only the stretch. Okay, and this is the skin, so it is having all the three, as well as this is supplied by the inferior rectal nerve, which is the systemic nerve. So this is the plexus is the autonomic nervous system, and this is the systemic nerve. Coming to the involuntary internal sphincter, it is supplied by the inferior hypogastric plexus sympathetic and pelvic splanchnic nerve, that is the parasympathetic, because involuntary internal sphincter is involuntary, so it is supplied by the autonomic nervous system. But we have the voluntary also, that is the external sphincter, external voluntary sphincter supplied by the inferior rectal nerve, which is the systemic nerve branch of the internal pudendal nerve and the perineal branch of the S4 nerve. So this is under our control because this is supplied by the inferior rectal nerve, which is the systemic nerve, and the internal sphincter is not under control because it is supplied by the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Coming to the lymphatic drainage, even the lymphatic drainage differs in above and below. Upper half, it will be draining into the perrectal nodes and then into the inferior mesenteric group of lymph nodes. So it is going to the again to the inferior. Everything above is the inferior mesenteric. And the lower half, it will be draining into the medial group of the superficial lymph nodes, inguinal group of lymph nodes. So it is going to the superficial inguinal group of lymph nodes in the lower half. So everything differs above and below. So that's why the pectineal line is very important. Now coming to finally to some of the clinical aspects. Again, as I said, you will study more in detail for these in pathology, but here just will give briefly about this. Okay. So there are different types of, as we said, this is the site for the portocaval anastomosis, and we saw that leads to hemorrhoids. Okay, or it is also called in layman's language that is called as piles. Okay, so these are the piles or the hemorrhoids. Okay, so there are different degrees for the hemorrhoids. This is the first degree, this is the second degree, and this is the third degree. Okay, as well as it also contains the fourth degree. Now coming to the some details about this. Due to the thrombosis of the branches of the superior rectal artery, usually these will be present in 4, 7, and 11 o'clock position. If the person lies down, it is just like a clock because it is the opening is round. So depending on where it is present, it is divided into clock-like 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 11 o'clock positions. Okay, so this is for the internal hemorrhoids, and usually this will be coming from above, so they will be painless. Okay, so this is how you can differentiate between the internal and external hemorrhoids. Okay, the internal hemorrhoids will be painless, and there can be sometimes the anal fissure. Fissure means rupture of the anal valves. Okay, because it is in the lower part, so they are very painful. As well as anal fissure or fistula, it is a communication between the anal mucosa and the perineal skin. If there is any infection inside, it will open like a tube outside into the anal canal. That is called as the anal fistula. So the types: external sphincter begins in the rectum or the colon. The suprasphincteric, it begins in the anal canal and it descends between the external and internal sphincter. So there are different types here. Okay, the external sphincteric, the suprasphincteric, transsphincteric, intersphincteric, and submucosal. All these are the fistula. This is the direction of the fissure. If there is any infection inside, it will drain in different direction into the anal canal. So okay, this is called extrasphincteric, suprasphincteric, transsphincteric, intersphincteric, and the submucosal. Okay, so all these are some of the different types of fistula. So this is all about the rectum as well as the anal canal. If you have any doubts regarding this, you can ask me now.